My name is Lucas Bloms. I am from North Dakota. I currently live in Los Angeles. I kind of left North Dakota because I wanted to get away from the cold. I was kind of sick of half my year being winter. So now I live here in sunny California. I guess about me, I grew up playing sports. I've always loved exercise, fitness. So I went into that for college. I got a degree in exercise science. Then I followed that up with a graduate degree in kinesiology. And then from there, I just got into training athletes. I started doing strength and conditioning for college athletes, which was a lot of fun. Now I work as a personal trainer, one on one, training people at their homes, training people at different gyms, training people at apartment gyms. I kind of travel around LA training people all day, every day.
Gotcha. So what kind of led you into that transition from being more kind of sports focused to being more kind of personal trainer focused?
Good question. Yeah, I actually loved the world of sports. I played college basketball myself, and I really enjoyed training with the athletes. I guess what kind of made me switch from the team aspect to kind of one on one is just a little bit more control over my schedule. When you're a strength and conditioning coach, you're going at it 7 days a week. You're working at 6 a.m. and 7 p.m., and you're working on Saturdays, you're working on Sundays. It's kind of nonstop. It's a lot of fun. It's like a very cool job, but it doesn't give you a lot of free time.
Yeah, and I'd imagine too, just kind of from being an athlete myself and just having gone up through the college level and professional level, it probably also doesn't give you as much control as far as kind of personalization for each person. You're kind
Yeah.
of trying to also protect the greater good of the team, and there's some other external forces that you have to operate within. And I'd imagine if you're one on one, you don't really have to worry about that. You can really dial it in for each person, which I'm sure is really important.
Yeah, I mean that's very true too. One-on-one training, I'm in control. I get to pick what we're going to do. That's very nice. Working with a team, you're working with other coaches. There's rules in place. You have to follow kind of a guideline.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I feel like, especially in season, right? It just becomes maintenance
Yeah,
and injury
what
prevention, which is totally different.
what you're allowed to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. Yeah, well, so I mean, obviously you have your master's in kinesiology, so you have a science background, but as far as kind of men's health goes, do you have much of a foundation of knowledge around kind of men's health and hormone health and nutrition and those kind of things, or just a general understanding?
I guess my understanding would just kind of come from everything that I studied in my master's degree. Everything that I remember learning from graduate school was kind of hormones drive everything in the body. I'm not going to claim to have the deepest understanding. I mean, people can do a deep dive into the human body, but I understand it at a pretty good level where, if your body's not producing a certain hormone, things go wrong. If your body's producing too much of another hormone, things go wrong. You like your blood work and like trying to keep everything in check is just really important. I just try to think of like the body as a system, and you want that whole system to like be efficient and operate. When like a man comes to me for training, the younger men, like I would say men under 40, they're typically coming to me with physical goals. They're trying to improve their body. They want to lose weight, have a smaller waist. They want to have more muscle mass. It's a lot of vanity when we're younger. The older clients, when my clients are in their 40s or 50s or 60s, then it becomes kind of more health related. A lot of these men, they know that they aren't going to have a six pack in their 50s or 60s unless they're going to devote a crazy amount of time to their nutrition and their training. So for a lot of these men in the older section, then it becomes health. So their goals are, I don't want my joints to hurt. When I go to the doctor, I want to have better results. Like that's one thing that I like to see a lot of times when I start training someone in their 50s or their 60s, they see their doctor pretty regularly. They have blood work. One thing that's really cool to see is 3 months into training, their blood work gets better. And I like to see that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it all just kind of has a synergistic effect, right? Like we talk about it, have a lot of conversations daily, right? What other things can I do to, balance my hormones or boost testosterone levels or whatever, naturally.
Mhm.
Right. And it's for sure
Yeah.
diet, sleep, exercise, those really fundamental components. But, um, that kind of stuff can get harder to create results as you get older. And a big reason
Mhm.
why is because your hormones are imbalanced, right? So it's almost like you're
Mhm.
working uphill. You can do as much training as you want. And if your testosterone levels are, in the 200s, or your free testosterone levels are really low, then, it's not going to have much of an impact. So kind of
Yeah.
balancing those things, and much like, if your diet's not dialed in, right? Like that's why I love to have conversations with people like you, and tie these things together so that they don't exist in a vacuum, so that people can kind of understand how they work together. And I mean, balanced hormones can improve your performance in the gym, right? And your performance in the gym
Mhm.
can improve your hormone function. So I think those things kind of go hand in hand.
Hormones will improve your performance in the gym, but it also just improves your day to day life. Like, I mean, there's like the phrase, you can't outwork a bad diet. There's kind of also like, you can't really outwork bad hormones. Like, kind of like you were mentioning earlier, if your testosterone's in the 200s, you can go to the gym every day, but you're probably just spinning your wheels. Like, you don't have what's necessary to like, for things to work and go correct. I've trained people who have low T, and we might lift weights for a year and they barely see results. Like, and so until you get that corrected, until you actually like fix what's wrong on the inside, you can't really progress or move forward.
What do you think actually is holding men back from doing something about it?
I know that men are weird about seeing doctors. uh, I
Mm.
think that a lot of men don't. I can see it with my girlfriend. She sees doctors regularly. Women seem to go to the hospital, go to doctors very frequently. Men do not. And I think there's actually like, I think if you Googled this, it would probably agree with that. That there's like a stigma where men don't seem to seek out medical help as frequently or nearly enough. And I think because of that, we don't really know what's going on like internally. We
Yeah,
just go hoping we're healthy.
it's almost like we don't want to know. I
Yeah,
have
we don't.
that conversation, right? It's
Mm.
I'd rather not know.
Yeah. Because it's
Yeah,
like, I mean, yeah, men know that they probably aren't eating quite right. They're probably not exercising as much as they should be. They know that they've probably partied on the weekends. They don't want to know.
even the guys that don't necessarily want to know what's going on, will be quick to hear a podcast and hear them talking about Tongat Ali and Fedoja aggrestris or something like that that can boost testosterone levels, and they'll buy those supplements and they'll take that. But
Hmm.
but without the diagnostic component of it, and without knowing what your baseline is, you don't know, number one, if you need something, but you also can't measure its impact, right? And so
Yeah.
what's the mechanism? Are those things just providing kind of a short-term boost of energy, or are they actually creating sustained change?
The thing that I found most valuable with Vitality is just simply the fact that you test it in the beginning. You're getting your blood work done. You're having a doctor look at it. And then based on that doctor's recommendations, you're going to try to take supplements and you're going to try to improve those numbers. And then you actually do retest. So there's some science with you test, you put in an intervention, and then you test again versus the old fashioned way, which is buying supplements online. And supplements aren't regulated by the FDA. So, like, we don't actually know if the supplement that we just paid a bunch of money for is going to work. And then you take that supplement and you hope it works, but you don't actually test to see if it worked. And, like you mentioned, you don't even test to see if you needed it in the first place. So, like, the whole supplementing is just a guessing game if you don't actually test to see if you need it and does it work.
Men hear hormones, they, number one, just associate it to performance in the bedroom, performance in the gym, don't really realize that
Mhm.
it's much more wider reaching than that. But I think also you hear hormone therapy and you think testosterone replacement therapy, right? And I think that
Mhm.
scares a lot of people for good reason, right?
Yeah.
It's a tool that can be used, when used properly, can be really effective, but it's very rare that it's being done properly.
Mhm.
And it can cause dependence and infertility and testicular shrinkage, and a lot of those
Mhm.
other kind of negative side effects. And then that's not to mention the fact that you're using needles, right? And that makes
Yeah.
a lot of people squeamish. It's just a matter of kind of some awareness around not just the problem, but around the different types of solutions that are safer and just as efficient.
I think that's something I think a lot of people don't know that there are other like methods. There's other paths you could take. I think of like the hormone replacement therapy, like testosterone. That's a last resort for an aging male who has tried all the different methods and nothing seems to be working. Like, because it's not healthy to have low testosterone. It's like you were saying, it's more than just your sex drive, and that's I think most people that don't have an understanding of hormones, when they think of testosterone, they just think of sex drive. But testosterone having low, it's just not healthy in general to be low. It's needed for a lot of different functions in the body. So you need to monitor that. Like you need to actually do blood work to see where it is. And if it is low, you need to try to find some kind of an intervention. Hopefully you try to find an intervention that's the like minimal amount, the least that's needed to be done to get it moving up. And obviously, if those things don't work, then you go towards more drastic measures.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time. The minimum effective dose, right? What's
Yeah.
the least amount of things that you can do that will elicit the largest effect? And I think
Mhm.
that's the name of the
That
game,
was that
especially
was
when you
preached in strength and conditioning. Minimum effective dose with everything. Yeah.
absolutely. And I think especially when you have a subset of people, i.e., men, who are resistant to going to the doctor and things like that you mentioned, right? It's
Mhm.
important to keep it simple, right? So what are the
Yeah.
least amount of things that can create the most impact becomes even more important because even how they say about a diet or even a workout routine, the best one is the one that you're going to stick with, right? And
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
you know, being able to have it simplified and kind of all pretty much laid out and done for you, all the way down to the supplement piece. I mean, we talk a lot about the supplements. The other component of the program is a compounded prescription capsule that combines some medications with supplements that kind of has a synergistic effect. It's some building blocks for the hormones, and then something called enclomiphene that pushes the body's natural production of testosterone. But the supplement piece, that's often kind of just overlooked and, oh, that's a nice to have. It's actually when you're able to stay consistent with some of these vitamins and minerals that almost everybody's deficient in, you know, particularly zinc, magnesium, fish oil, those kind of things, the omegas. Um, that can really create a big impact. It should not be understated. And by having these kind of daily packs where it's already all done for you and you don't have to open up a bunch of different, vitamin bottles and take one or two out of each one every day. We just found that guys won't do that consistently. And
Yeah.
so the name of the game, and I'm sure with what you do, right, is, how do I create a program that someone's actually going to stick to?
It has to be as simple as possible because that's the other phrase that they, from strength and conditioning and from sports is the KISS, the keep it simple, stupid. The best, like you said, the best program is something that you're actually going to follow. If you, I mean, I would love to have every guy I train doing pull ups and dips and squats and all the hardest things we can possibly do. But realistically, not everybody can do those things. You need to figure out what is this person's ability and what can I throw at them that they can actually handle. And that was kind of the same thing with the supplements and the medications and everything you're talking about. Yeah, if you've got to open up 7 or 8 different pill bottles every single day, you're not going to be able to stick to that, and you're not going to want to do that. But like, if you can make it simple and you can tear open a pack, that helps things out quite a bit. It's so simple, but it's like it makes a difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Yeah. Well, why don't we just kind of wrap with, I'm always curious to hear what kinds of things people in the kind of health and wellness space are doing to, what other people have found to be the most effective, or things that are fairly simple, whether you call them hacks or habits or things like that create have worked really well for them. because I like to add stuff to my own repertoire. But do you have any kind of a couple of things here and there, whether it be like, you know, using a Whoop or some other kind of gadgets or habits or things like that that you stack that you found to be really effective?
Yeah, I guess definitely. I just like you just got done. I'm wearing my Whoop right now. Yep. I when I first got this thing, I was kind of against the whole health trackers. Uh, but I will say I fell in love with this thing. Like it's kind of like a video game, but the video game is your body and your health. And so like if you're a competitive kind of person, you can sit and play around with this, and it's a fun to have a dashboard on your phone that tells you what's happening inside your body. So that's like a tracker is definitely something that I think it brings your focus to your health. Whether or not the numbers are 100% accurate isn't the focus. It's the fact that you're actually like thinking about it daily. But outside of that, just basic things like I think a lot of people always try to push performance, performance, performance. Like people are taking pre-workout and they want to like see how hard they can hit it. I, as I got older, I kind of flipped that to I don't want to push my performance. I want to push like my recovery because the better you can recover, the more you can perform, and then you don't need pre-workout and you don't need stuff like that. Like so, I think more on the opposite side of things where I just try to stay hydrated. I always have a water. I've got one right here. I always have a water bottle. Like I don't go anywhere without one. Just easiest thing you can do is stay hydrated. Um, I do a lot of like sauna, steam room after I work out. If you have time, whether it's 10, 15 minutes to jump in the sauna or the steam room, it just, you can feel the difference. Like your joints, your muscles, everything is feeling so much better after a workout if you have time to do that. And then just focusing on sleep. I try to get in bed at like an early time every night.
Yeah, I think all those things are awesome, and all things that I do as well. When I back when I was playing football, uh, I remember going to someone that a massage therapist, kind of body worker, more on the kind of chiro and PT side, but their big thing was heat after activity to flush the lactic acid and increase circulation and get all of that kind of, you know, bad blood and things that are pooling in your muscles to just kind of flush out. And so I'd come in from practice and I'd jump right in the hot tub where everyone else
Yeah.
was jumping in the cold tub and kind of, you know,
Uh-huh.
constricting everything. It can be good, obviously, to control kind of some acute inflammation, the cold. But the heat, I think, is just a much better modality for recovery. And, you know, obviously cold tubs are all the rage right now, and rightfully so for their, you know, building resilience, and there's some longevity type positive effects and things like that. But I think for performance based, heat really is underrated and underused,
Yeah.
underutilized. I mean, getting in a hot tub and stretching after a hard workout or a hard run or something like that, I think is one of the best things that you could possibly do.
Yeah, I agree. I think the heat stress doesn't. Yeah, you're right. I mean, right now in today's world, there's definitely a trend towards cold plunges, and people are putting cold tubs in their house, and it yeah, like you said, for good reason. There's a lot of health benefits that come from like cold plunges. But like immediately after exercise, yeah, I prefer heat. I think it just soothes the body, calms you down, gets your blood circulating, and I mean your blood circulation is what's going to start recovery. You need blood going to those muscles, going to those joints. Like you just did damage.
Yeah, and then to just kind of bring it full circle too, you were talking about the Whoop and tracking, and I think that's at the core of what we're trying to do at Vitality RX is just provide the platform for guys to track these
Yeah.
really important biomarkers, because it's just it makes it a lot more engaging. You know, being able to kind of
Mhm.
see those numbers and have a structure to it is just much different than the whole spray and pray type of mentality.
Yeah.
You know, and traditionally that's been a big pain in the ass to be able to do, right? Like having to go into a lab or to your doctor and get blood drawn and do all that kind of stuff is cumbersome, right? And maybe you'll get gung ho about it and you'll do it once, but then are you going to keep doing follow ups, you know, and just having
Yeah.
an at-home test kit that just comes in the mail that you can just pop on your shoulder and click a button and takes 10 minutes and send that in and be able to track these numbers, and see these biomarkers and how they're changing over time. And then, whether you're, you on the Vitality X reboot program or not, just being able to have those numbers, and
Yeah.
track what you're doing, how effective what you're doing is really impactful, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I know that was the big draw for me. I like you just said, if someone can send me a kit and I can do it at home, then I'm going to do it. And there's a very good likelihood that I'm going to follow up with it, so I can actually start tracking my blood work. But if I have to schedule a doctor's appointment and go to the hospital to get my blood work done, then I might do it once, but I'm not going to do it a second time. Definitely not going to do it a third time. So then you're not actually tracking. You did it one time. The thing that I found most valuable with Vitality is just simply the fact that you test it in the beginning. You're getting your blood work done. You're having a doctor look at it. And then based on that doctor's recommendations, you're going to try to take supplements and you're going to try to improve those numbers. And then you actually do retest. So there's some science with you test, you put in an intervention, and then you test again versus the old fashioned way, which is buying supplements online. And supplements aren't regulated by the FDA. So, like, we don't actually know if the supplement that we just paid a bunch of money for is going to work. And then you take that supplement and you hope it works, but you don't actually test to see if it worked. And, like you mentioned, you don't even test to see if you needed it in the first place. So, like, the whole supplementing is just a guessing game if you don't actually test to see if you need it and does it work.